Welcome to Quick Car Tips. Last week we talked about how to replace a car battery with a new one. However, choosing the right moment to change it is just as important as knowing how to do it. There are some concepts that will help you to make this decision, but above all of them, there's a method with which any doubts are dissipated, because it allows you to check its current status. First of all, we'll start by quickly summarizing the basics. Cars of a certain age will give symptoms such as difficulty in starting or the malfunction of some systems, such as the radio, lights, or windshield wipers. However, many modern cars stop starting up overnight without any prior symptoms. The norm is that batteries last around 4 years, and if they are of the factory fitted kind, it's easy for them to exceed 6, 8 or even more years. However, these time frames vary depending on the use given to the car. For example, its useful life is greatly shortened if only short trips are made in which there's no time for the battery to recharge. Unfortunately, few cars have a truly functional indicator that tells you when to change the battery. Something common when the car does not start for the first time is to resort the jumper cables or a bump start, so you can try recharging with the alternator, taking a long drive with the car. That is precisely when we take the opportunity to check the status of the battery. In this way, we'll eliminate the typical doubt of whether it's only discharged or it's already in such a bad condition that it must be replaced by a new one. To do this, we've already published a video explaining how to do it with a voltage tester, but these devices are impractical and rare in a home toolbox. On this occasion, we are going to explain how to do it with a multimeter, a cheaper and above all more useful tool because it allows you to carry out various checks in the car or even at home. Let's start by setting up the multimeter. It's a simple process because there are only 3 steps. Place the cables, the black one in the COM port and the red one with the port that indicates the volts with the typical V. Ours has only one red port for all functions, but in others there may be more. Look for the capital V, even if it's accompanied by other symbols. Choose the correct measurement range. Since we're going to measure close to 12 volts, the proper range for our multimeter is 40 volts. In others, you can select 20 volts, 30 volts or another value. We should not choose a range below 12 volts, because the multimeter will look for lower values and will not measure correctly. Select direct current, that is indicated by the acronym CC, DC or a solid line with a dotted line below. Whilst we are at it, before checking the battery, let's rule out that the alternator is not the problem. It takes just a few seconds, and if the alternator is broken, it won't charge the battery when the engine is running. Thus, we would have found the real origin of the problem. In addition, to check the battery, you need to take a ride with the car to charge it. So if the alternator doesn't work properly, we could get a false result and even think that the battery is in a bad condition when it's not. To check the alternator, you must have the engine running. Open the hood and put the black wire on the negative terminal and the red wire on the positive. At this point, the multimeter should indicate a voltage between 30.5 and 14.5 volts. That is, a voltage higher than the battery, so that electricity is flowing in to recharge it and not the other way around. If the alternator is not the problem, now is the time to take that ride with the car. It should last about 45 minutes at a constant speed and at about 2500 revolutions per minute, which is approximately when the alternator will recharge at its maximum rate. Make the most of the trip by road or highway whilst going somewhere, because the rest of the steps will take you only 3 minutes. This time, you'll have to turn the engine off. Also, you should slightly discharge the battery to avoid a false result. You can do this by turning on the lights with the engine off for a minute or 2. We already have the multimeter set up the right way, so turn off the lights, pop the hood and connect the wires as you did before. Black on the negative terminal and red on the positive. The multimeter will tell you what the battery's voltage is at that moment. The remaining useful life will be indicated by the values between 13 and 12 volts. 13 volts would indicate that it has 100% left and 12 volts that it's already at the end of its life and must be changed. Even so, if you see that it's already between 12.3 and 12.2 volts, you better change it as soon as possible. If you see that the battery is in perfect condition, but it always ends up discharging prematurely, it may mean that your car is discharging current due to an electrical component. In this video you can see how to easily check that with a multimeter and even find out which component is causing the problem. We hope this tutorial has been helpful. If so, subscribe and give us a like, so we can continue making content like this. Regards and until next time.